Hey guys, Liquid here, and welcome back to Let's Answer Some Questions. As always, post questions below, and I will answer them next week. First off, I just want to say that immediately before I started recording this, I actually just installed a Bluetooth adapter for my headphones or whatever. So hopefully nothing sounds different. But if anything does sound different, that's why. But I don't think it would make any difference. But let's begin. Katz asks, have you ever bought a game and regret buying it? There have been quite, I wouldn't say a lot, but well, the first thing that comes to mind is there was this, I feel like it's kind of died down, but there used to be this real big kick of simulator games, like just random game and then after it, this random word and then simulator, I think things like Goat Simulator have lasted into modern memory, but there were things Grass Washing Simulator, which I don't even think I'm making that up, and there were just so many simulator games, and one was Construction Simulator, I think, and I remember looking at the trailer or whatever, and just being so excited for it, and because it looked it's you can make these buildings and whatnot. But then I got it, and it was just this weird, money management thing like that, and so I didn't actually. I played it 2 minutes basically and stopped. But that comes to mind the first the most, probably because it was such a disappointment from my vision of what it was going to be. There were definitely a lot of games where it's I look at my Steam list and it's well, am I ever gonna play this? And so that just money is just gone basically, because I imagine most people have just dozens of games that they probably will never play just because they got it when it was on sale or something. Games that I've just wish that I never played. That Construction Simulator probably is it comes to mind the most, but I imagine there probably are others that have come out throughout time. Red Hood 440 asks, what do I think of Porgs? Now, honestly, when I saw this question, I really did not know what this was. I think I've heard of these. I've seen these things around. But I guess these Porgs, I guess, are things from Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which I've not seen. And so because I've not really paid attention to it, what do I think of it? I don't really have too many thoughts on it because I'm not really sure what it is. Porgs were a species of sea-dwelling bird. They were native to the planet Ahch-To, where Jedi Master Luke Skywalker made his exile in the years prior to the Battle of Crate. See, I'm not sure what is the exact what role they play in the movie, but they look interesting, I guess. Not is it the type of thing are they sort of the Ewoks of? Because I know like I said, I've not seen the movie, but I know one common complaint of the sequel trilogy is that they're just copying everything from the original trilogy or whatever. But I wonder there are these the cute things that are supposed to grow your attachment, like Ewoks or something like that. I don't know. Guacamolo asks, hey Liquid, are you going to do a Let's Play on Spider-Man PS4 when it comes out in September? Probably eventually. I have had this question a lot, but probably eventually. Actually, this is the first time I ever heard that it was coming out in September. Do I have it immediate? Do I have plans to do some sort of immediate thing, day one thing or whatever? Not really. I really haven't been paying attention to it too much. But is it actually September? September 7th. I had not heard of that. Nominated Game Award, Best Most Anticipated Game. I'll have to look into that when it comes out. But because it is something that's until there is a Let's Play on my channel of that game, I probably will never stop hearing about it, and so I probably will do it eventually. Plus, it is just like I think like a monumental thing for Spider-Man games, because I feel like it's like the first one in a while that looks like it could be promising. But we will see how it goes. Royal Guard says, yeah, Liquid, indeed. Blue Blazing asks, the people who did the Crash remake aren't working on this game. It's Toys for Bob, which I've not heard of. So this is in response to last time I was talking about the Spyro remake, and I wondered if it was like the same people. Apparently, it's this people called Toys for Bob. The Pandemonium. Skylander. Oh, right. Madagascar. I actually played a lot of the Madagascar game for PS2. I remember I rented that once and it was pretty good. Magical Daisaksen. This has got my. Well, I'm curious what this is. Oh, is that completely. So Sally the Witch and the. It's like all like the magical girls, I guess, of like the 70s and 60s and 70s. That's real crazy. I've never heard of this game. What is this game? Mariko no koto nara nandemo omakase. I'll have to look into that. That's very, very, very strange. Alright, but alright, so in regards to that, what was my train of thought? The Toys for Bob. Okay, so Spyro reunited, and then I guess they did the Switch version of a Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy or something. Who knows? But last time I was wondering about that, and yeah, I have actually just to speak more on the Spyro thing. A friend of mine showed me some screenshots, I guess, that have come out like over the last I don't know, a few days or something. And I gotta say, like, they did actually look really cool, because last time I was talking about how in that trailer they didn't really do too many of those scene switches where it went from old graphics to new graphics, whereas these screenshots that I saw were basically straight up that, and it really does look very impressive. And so I am interested in it. And to tie in with the next question, do you have a PS4, and why don't you play new games? I do indeed have a PlayStation 4, but like this is kind of it's almost a meme, I feel, because I have been asked this a couple times, but I have not actually used it. Like, I got it for Christmas almost like a few years ago, but like I think I got it like sort of for myself, but I actually have not used it because I just have not. It will tie into this a little bit, but I probably will like use it some, because there are like Let's Plays that I would like to do of games that will be coming out for it, such as the Spider-Man thing, and like the Uncharted, like the Uncharted remasters or stuff like that. But I have not really, I have not used it. Like I have tested it out with the Uncharted thing, but I have not. I've not really, ever played like a full game on it or anything. And he says, "Why don't you play new games?" Because I think this is a direct response also to something that I said last time, where I basically said, on the Spyro thing, I basically said, I don't really think, while it looks cool, I'm not sure if I would actually play it because I don't really play new games. And I'd say like this probably can factor down into two answers. And one is probably just the fact that a lot of new games just don't really interest me. Like when I see new games, when I see trailers for new games that are coming out, they just kind of look. I'm just not really impressed, and feel like it's an experience that I could get the same experience or even a better experience, with with some other game or something like that. I feel like this is somewhat of a common thing of with people in my field, where they just feel like a lot of new games aren't really that different, or they're just that interesting. And I'd say that for the most part, my views on the Spyro thing, with when I saw those screenshots, have changed a little bit, and I am kind of interested in checking out. But another big reason, that I just don't really play new games, or really just just don't really play games in general too much, aside from Let's Plays, is and I probably will go into this a little bit more in the future, where I'll probably talk about my views on video games and whatnot, maybe like in a big update video, because next time like my channel anniversary comes up or something. But I've talked about it a bit on the channel, but over the past nearly 3 years, I've been studying Japanese, and I would say for the most part that has become my sort of hobby. And what I do with my free time is reading like Japanese books, listening to Japanese and whatnot, and striving to become very, very good with it. You see, I have like my YouTube in Japanese. So when I Googled, my Google is in Japanese. I don't have my Windows in Japanese, unfortunately, because I have Windows 7, and apparently it seemed too... I couldn't really figure out how to do it. But, yeah, like, for me, it was the type of thing where maybe when I was about a year into learning Japanese, I sort of started to... I feel like I used to... Cause before I started learning Japanese, I played a lot of video games, and that was sort of that was what I did with my time in those days. I would play things like Kerbal Space Program, and I would just play, all night or whatever. And when I look back on those, there came a point where I started to look back at that time where I was just doing nothing but playing random games or something. And I kind of looked down at it. Because I felt like I was, wasting my time with just seeking out instant gratification, and because I'd found Japanese something that I felt was, bettering myself, bettering my brain, bettering my mind, and a skill that I was having to strive to work for, and whatnot, and it wasn't immediate gratification, like in the early days, especially, when you don't really understand anything, it was, the feeling of working toward a goal and, hearing the word that you learned the previous day, was just a feeling for me that I didn't really get with video games. And I sort of just started to kind of disown video games and not really kind of look down at that point in my life in which I was playing a lot of look down and at the time of my life in which I did play a lot of video games, and just think to myself, oh man, I wasted my time. I wish I'd started learning Japanese earlier or some of that. And so that was the point, I think, like for a big reason. That was a big reason where in 2016, I had like a big hiatus where, I didn't really upload anything for a year, because, I just wasn't really interested. I just kind of lost interest in making videos, especially English videos, and whatnot. And so eventually there was a point in 2016, which I briefly came back, and I basically said, from this point on, there will be no English Let's Plays on this channel. It's all going to be Japanese Let's Plays, like Let's Plays of Japanese games. That's when I started Boku no Natsuyasumi. And eventually, I kind of came around, I said, really, like, I'm kind of alienating the people. And so I did start doing English stuff again. But, for me, still, the feeling of learning Japanese and understanding Japanese is a feeling that's much, like for me, I've tried to, like, be very, like, meek, like, there's very little, I'm not sure, I've tried not to go too heavy in my expressions here, but in a lot of ways, like, to me, Japanese, it was almost like a drug, where when I understood things, it just felt, it was a high, it was like a serious high, reading, like when you read a sentence and understand it, when you watch an anime and just understand what they're saying. And I'm still, like, don't get me wrong, I still learn new things every day, and am not, I still have a long way to go. There's a YouTuber who I greatly respect called Matt vs. Japan, who, he's someone who, as I say this, I do consider myself, somewhat advanced with Japanese, because, I can read, I've read many books in Japanese, and, for the most part, I can, watch anime raw, and I do look up words here and there, and whatnot, but, like, I'm much farther along than most people will probably ever get. But, someone like Matt, I see someone like Matt vs. Japan, who I can, I know, I've spoken with him, and I can guarantee you that he's much, much, much better than I am. And even he will, say, he still learns things every day. And he, whether it's, some weird, dialect thing or something like that, but, he still gets better all the time. And I'll probably still always be getting better. And so, but, with learning things and seeing the things that you learned is just such a high that, I just never really got with video games. Like I said, like, the instant gratification versus, like, the long-term gratification. And, yeah, for the most part, once I started learning Japanese, my interest in just playing random video games kind of went down a lot. Though I have, as I've gotten more into, like, watching Matt vs. Japan's videos, I've shifted to, there's this thing in the Japanese learning community sort of thing called AJAT, which is all Japanese all the time, which is basically a website started by a fella that kind of combines a lot of theories and hypotheses in linguistics and whatnot, called, like, the things like the input hypothesis by Stephen Krashen, and basically is like a sort of a lifestyle in which basically people aim to get better at Japanese, or really any language. It doesn't really have to be Japanese, even though it's all Japanese all the time, through massive amounts of massive amounts of input, and with the idea that some of that will be comprehensible and you'll be getting better. So, what you do is things like always have a headphone in your ear playing Japanese radio or Japanese audiobooks or something like that. Like, always, if you're going for a walk, have headphones in playing Japanese. If you're cooking, have headphones in playing Japanese. And basically aims to fill in every little crack of your life with Japanese in some way. And so, because and doing that, I sort of look at the people who, where am I going to actually move that? But with that, I have sometimes been, lately, sometimes you might see me going like Splunky or something, because, that's like a very good, I think that's like a podcast game where, you know, I could just put on like an audiobook, Japanese audiobook or something like that, and just go on Splunky or some of that, because, you know, that's a way that I can, you know, both get, you know, have some fun with the video game, but also get the Japanese immersion that I would want. So maybe, you know, when Spyro comes out, I might like play it, or, you know, I know a lot of people will probably be requesting that I let's play it, but you know, maybe if I don't let's play it like immediately, if I play through it first, you know, I might, you know, just play it, but with listening to Japanese at the same time, or something like that. But yeah, like that was sort of a point that I went through, and, you know, like I said, I'll probably talk about this again at some point in the future, but, you know, definitely around 2016, I sort of like really looked down at like the time that I spent playing video games, and I sort of started to also look down at people that, you know, I sort of looked down at people that, I won't say look down, like I didn't really see myself as being better, but I sort of looked down at people who, you know, I almost felt bad for people that did, you know, spend most of their time playing video games. You know, the people that played things like Overwatch all day or something like that, where, you know, because even, you know, if I'm going to play a video game, it's going to be like usually going to be something like an RPG, where, you know, it's a story that you're experiencing, rather than like this weird infinite thing that doesn't ever change. And so like I would just kind of consider myself lucky that like I had the realization to, like, you know, start doing something to improve my mind and whatnot, and wasn't just like this, you know, slave to video games, in which, you know, video games, I think that I feel like I'm starting to ramble a lot, but I'm just get like all the ideas I have out there, you know, because I think that video games are something that, while a lot of people play them, a lot of people that play them also want to do something else, and that video games do not allow them to do. And I feel that it's weird. Like I know this is a weird channel to bring this up on, but I do think a lot of people do suffer from some form of video game addiction. You know, they want, you know, a lot of people might want to learn Japanese, but, you know, they might study for a couple days, and then the next day, you know, they're back to playing video games in English, and that, you know, the video games have, you know, more or less killed their streak. You know, like they've killed their ability to stick to something else. You know, in this Discord server I'm in, there's a fella who wants to get into this whole AJAT lifestyle of, you know, making Japanese, like this, like making his life revolve around Japanese and whatnot. And he basically, you know, he actually went. You can. I'll just name his channel here is Calvin Ajat. Just look that up on YouTube if you're interested. But like CalvinAgatt. And he actually went as far as to open up his computer and sell his graphics card so that he cannot like relapse to playing video games. And I was never really at that. I really never had that problem where, you know, for me, like, even though I played a lot of Kerbal Space Program and whatnot, and all that, once I started learning Japanese, I didn't really have a problem, you know, keeping away from it. And so at first that kind of seemed very weird that he would do that, but the more and more I thought of it, the more I realized that for a lot of people, it is like really tempting to just, you know, skip a day of studying and just play video games all day or something. And so in a lot of ways I can understand how for him that was actually maybe a good thing that he would do that, if it's something that, if he did really want to learn Japanese. Because I've seen people, because a lot of people will say things like, you know, oh, you know, I'd love to learn Japanese, but I just don't have the time. You know, I have such a busy schedule and I just don't have the time. And those same people that say those things, oftentimes, like, it's like you go on their Steam profile, you know, they'll have like 60 hours played in the last 2 weeks, right? So that's 30 hours a week. Do the math. That's like 2 hours a day that you could have been like studying. So you did have the time, your time just being taken up by other things. And so, yeah, I'd say that for the most part, my view on video games, I feel like I'm not as zealous as I was, maybe in 2016, where, maybe in 2016 or so, I honestly, I probably did look down at people, and I saw myself as better for not playing that many video games anymore. But my view is still a bit shaky and whatnot. But yeah, I hope that probably answered the question of like was why I don't play too many new games and why I just don't just play too many games in general, and also just being in the Japanese, far less expensive. Video games. People are always talking about get the hottest new game. It's $60 or whatever, and so $60. That's one new game versus like in Japanese. Assume that you want to like get like books or something. $60 can probably get you like over 10 books in Japanese, which you read 10 books in Japanese, you're going to get pretty good. Like so I feel like the value ratio is very different. But I realize I probably rambled quite a bit there, but hopefully you actually listened to everything and actually like cared or whatever. But yeah, that's how it is, I suppose. And last but not least, Mega. Kind of funny because the last question was Blue Blazing and has a Mega Man avatar, but now you have Mega. He says, "Hey man, love your stuff. Always have. Thank you very much. I just want to know, what is your favorite Let's Play you've done so far? Keep it up. Loved your stuff since I was 8." Ignore the question a bit. Like I've mentioned this before, but whenever I get comments, I always find it so weird because I guess like in theory, someone started watching me when I started, because I started almost 10 years ago, and so in theory, if like you started watching when I was 8, you would be like, when you were 8, you were like, now that would make you like 18. Like that's so that is always real weird, especially just because the fact that I didn't really get into the internet at all until it's just like a generational thing where I didn't really get into the internet until I was a bit older. Like I was still like using certain websites, but I was never really like, when I was 8, YouTube didn't exist. But what's my favorite Let's Play that I've done? I really enjoyed Resident Evil 4. Like that's probably the one that I mentioned the most. I think like even on my channel, if you go into my channel, it might actually be, I want to say I have like the playlist as being like one of like the playlist that everyone sees, just because I really enjoyed doing the Let's Play, and I just really enjoy. I think it's a good Let's Play. Like I haven't actually looked at it in a while, but I think people would enjoy it if they watched it. Other than that, I'd say Ultimate Spider-Man. Like, well, that might have been fun. Like, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of Ty the Tasmanian Tiger that I just did. Honestly, like going through that game was I hadn't played that game in probably over 10 years, like, or easily over 10 years, and I loved every second of that Let's Play. Like that was so fun to make and just play that game again, because such a good underrated platformer. Like that was real fun. And I will give I'll give a sneak mention to Boku no Natsume, which probably is not most people on my channel probably would not really enjoy the Boku no Natsume Let's Play, but that was a really fun one for me. But that's all the questions for this week. Post questions below, and I will answer them next week. Hopefully, we'll have a new Let's Play going up this week of a game that I played a lot during my early childhood. Just to give a hint. And if anyone's interested, on my language channel, or on my Language from Liquid channel that you can view if you go on to if you go into like my related channels on my channel, you'll see my Language with Liquid channel, and I've got like a video going up tomorrow, or going up tomorrow when you hear this, of probably none of the people that watch this video will understand it at all or get anything out of it, but just a note that it's going up. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Till next time, Liquid out.